everybody, and welcome back to the Marketer's Blueprint podcast. I, of course, am your host yet again, Nathan Gibson. Here with me, of course, is Mr. Gabe Arnold. Gabe, how's it going today?
Good. Very productive week, and we're moving through a bunch of big projects. We had some awesome new clients partner up with us this week, so that was exciting. And so, yeah, all in all, it's been a solid week.
Yeah, it has been for me too. I've been having a lot of great conversations. Business has been going really well. And speaking of having really good conversations, there's a topic of conversation I actually really wanted to touch on today that I think is so important in today's day and age, right? As the months fly through 2025, none other than AI, right? We're going to talk about AI today. We've done an episode in the past before, but even in the short month or two since we did our last episode, things have changed, things have evolved, opinions have changed. And so I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit today and go over your experience with AI and share some stuff with our viewers. So, um, because one realization that I've had, and I think a lot of other business owners, marketing representatives, and people have realized is there's no ignoring AI anymore.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's in search results in Google, social media platforms. It's even in the ads we say or see on a day-to-day basis. You're not escaping AI. It is a very popular thing right now. And while some people might think that a robot takeover is inevitable, right? The truth is we need AI if we want to stay competitive. So let's dive into that a little bit. Why do you think it is important to have AI integrated into your business to stay competitive, especially as it's become such a trend recently?
Yeah, the thing with like AI is a technology tool, and so I always like to ground into the principles of, what is technology for? Technology is to save us time and save us money. That's like why we have airplanes. It's why we invented the wheel. We could look at any piece of technology, or we look at back at when the printing press was invented. Like you could create so many more copies of a book or a
Yeah.
paper or something and distribute it a lot easier. And so AI has definitely matured to the point that it's very functional to help us with, buying back our time in our tasks. And that can be everything from we've seen it with large corporations, for a couple of years now of where we're talking to AI, customer service chatbots. Uh,
Yeah.
and that means that they can remain competitive in what they charge for their products and services because they get to offload some of the time and labor there. And AI has been around for, at least 20 years. I would say probably 30 years. I was on a call the other day with a guy who's been an AI engineer for 15 years. So that tells you like
Wow.
just, it's not new by any means, but it's reaching a point where the hardware capabilities that we have in specifically in our graphics cards is like where the big jump came. And so it's now we're in a position where Moore's law is something interesting to look up because it says this is a rough translation of it, but Moore's law is that the speed of computing will double every 12 to 18 months. I think they revised if it was 12 or 18 months a while
Sure.
back. And then the size of it shrinks. So we're getting faster, better computing. And the size is dropping and the cost is dropping. And so
Right.
we've reached that kind of crossover point where hardware is, accessible to the level that we can run these mass, calculations and searches through these large language models and other models that we're using inside of AI. And so, as business owners, what I always recommend to people is don't like jump on the trend as soon as it's popular. That's not strategic. There's no principle behind that. But as soon as it feels, stable and useful, and you can start to have real world application for it, that's when you can start to implement it and test and learn. And so, the competitive advantage right now to be aware of is AI fluency, being able to take an AI tool and mold it to your needs and use it strategically and direct it. And that's really the key focus right now that we have in our company. How we're supporting clients is, leveraging AI for the right work and not making the assumption that it's great for all work yet, and it will never do all work.
Yeah.
Totalitarian statements like that are generally wrong, but we're going to see increasing, market share essentially of AI moving into all different, industries and business spaces because of the fact that it's reached a maturity level and a stability level that it's important to actually become skilled enough to use it so that as an example you can frame something out or draft something content wise, or you can do some planning financially. You can look at logistics, like you can look at a bunch of things, and that will save you time and effort as compared to hiring
Right.
a consultant or hiring more people. And so in order to remain competitive, you have to follow what's, in this case, it's wise to follow what's happening, worldwide with AI.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, right? And it's like you said, AI has been around for a lot longer than people realize, and it's just kind of hit its boiling point of popularity and use cases and things like that. It made me think of a really interesting example, right? So, like cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person has a cell phone, right? Like it's a common thing, right? But when cell phones first came out, it was like I might be wrong on this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like a brick like thing that was attached to your car, right? The very first cell phone,
Yep.
and not a lot of people had those. It was like it was not something that was widespread. The real rise of cell phones came later on when they became more accessible, more intuitive, more technologically advanced, and things like that. And so think about like that with AI. The reason people are using AI in their business more often now is because of how far it's come. But I think that brings up a couple important topics, right? Is like you said, AI can be used to save your business time and money, but it shouldn't necessarily replace everything. One of which that you've taught me that I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about is human intuition and creativity, right? That's something, at least for the foreseeable future, AI is not going to replace. How important is it to still have those in your business with this rise of AI that we're seeing everywhere?
Yeah, AI is a leverage tool, so it's going to leverage what you have in hand already. And so,
Yeah.
if I, as an example, like, because it's totally appropriate. My 13-year-old son can't use AI at the leveraged level that I can because he doesn't have years of business experience yet. So he can use it at the level that he understands how to ask questions and how to ask it to do specific work or learn things or do things. But he doesn't have context, and experience to have like the really strategic questions to ask or things like that. And so when we think about the strategic use of AI, we need to be the thinker, the creator, the driver of it, and we need to have healthy skepticism of whatever it returns back to us so that we can review it, refine it, do our own due diligence, see if it's really valid and accurate in what it's suggesting, and then never allow it to be like putting something in and taking verbatim what comes out and using that as an end work product. So whether you're writing social media posts with it or writing an email or creating a sales page or building a financial model or a strategy or a launch plan. I mean, there's so much you can do to converse with it. It really is a very intelligent assistant for virtually anything you want to ask it. That should be the baseline and the framework, but we need to partner with AI in a way that we're able to drive the conversation, drive the strategy, be the one owning the result, and again, continuing that healthy skepticism and having a little bit of really healthy contrarianism in how we view it, you think about it and use it so that we're not fooled into thinking that just a simple question can be trusted with, that simple response. Refining what you get out of it, digging deeper, challenging responses that you get, really being intentional about how you think about it and use it is really key.
Yeah, and I think that's really important is how deep you can go into utilizing AI, right? The law of equivalent exchange will say is true with AI too. The amount of effort and time you put into the prompts and the things that you're asking AI, the better returns you're going to get. But it's like you said, it's to be used as a tool, a resource to leverage for your business, not as the primary, driver of the content. It can be used to enhance, give ideas, maybe even put some polishing touches, but the core of what your content or whatever you're putting into AI should be human driven, right? Because people are going to be able to tell the difference.
Yeah. And yeah, the like you just said, the better the input, the better effort you put into the input, the better output you get. That's a life, that's a universal law of life and
Exactly.
of the planet and the cosmos, as far as I can tell. And so I've told, clients of ours, people I coach and mentor and work with, a great way to start, leveraging it for content is to start by talking out your thoughts, into something that can transcribe it. There's
Mm-hmm.
plugins or things you can add into ChatGPT and other tools. I use a tool called Voxer, which is a pretty old app that on the pro plan you can talk into it for up to 15 minutes and then it'll transcribe everything you've said. And I recently wrote, a short article, a piece of work for some people I was coaching around beliefs because I had this long conversation, shared the whole basis of, what I was coaching on, beliefs to consider, updating or, challenging that one of my clients had. And then I just transcribed that whole thing and put it into ChatGPT. And I was very clear and specific and said, I want you to write this as an article for me, but I want you to use 95% of what I said. And if you bring in anything else, I want you to tell me what you're supplementing with. So
Yeah.
being really clear and strict and how you use it is helpful, but you can write really valuable, helpful content as long as you are the source of truth. If you just rely on it to be the source of truth, then you get stuff in there that really isn't truly you or your business or your brand. And that's where people can tell it's not real. It won't be as useful, it won't be as authentic, but you can really leverage its writing capabilities by saying, here's a transcript of me talking about XYZ topic. I want to write a how-to article. I want to write an inspirational piece. I want 4, 10, whatever the number is, different social media posts, but make sure you use my content and my words as you craft them.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be very clear. Just like if you hire somebody to come work for you, if you give them no job description and no directions, they will sit around and waste your time and they will cause problems in your business. AI is the same way. You need to give very clear, direction, expectations, give feedback on the results it gives, and the more input you have, the better result you're going to get.
Yeah, I think that's so important too, because one of the things I wanted to touch on today is your experience with building GPTs. You touched a little bit about some of the tools that you've used. So I wanted to get a little bit from you about what goes into building a GPT for your business, because a part of what I wanted to talk about today is how to utilize AI without feeling like it's taking over your business.
Yeah.
And so you were very intentional about the way that you implemented AI into Business Marketing Engine, and took a fair amount of time to build things out, and took hundreds of hours of recordings and transcripts and put them into it. Tell me a little bit about what went into that process and the intention behind, okay, we can use this for our business now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll pull one of them up here and show an example.
Cool.
But foresight and planning ahead and playing the long game will pay you every single time you take that approach in business. And so in 2019, I was like, these transcripts are going to be super useful someday. So that's when I put in a company policy that we record everything. And
Hmm.
I think we were still a little bit in Zoom back then. But when Google Meet started doing transcripts and recording, that's when we switched to that, because it's a nice unified platform for us. And they just did
Yeah.
the Gemini update, which is even nicer transcripts and kind of action items. But I ended up taking, I have a couple bigger GPTs that I built. One of them that I just use personally right now, I just call Gabe Super GPT. And I went through quite a process, but I took all of the transcripts that I have stored in Google Drive and downloaded them all. And then I used ChatGPT to write a Python script and pull out only my tagged, words and sentences out of the
Wow.
transcripts. So I filtered it all just to my words, so I didn't have the jumble of other people's opinions and words in there. And I ended up with about almost 24 million words of content that was
Good
just me
Lord.
talking, which was me coaching in team calls, across the board, all the different things that I do, because we're a virtual company. And so virtually everything we do, I have recorded, fortunately.
Right, right.
And so then I took that and broke those down and put those into documents in sizes that, ChatGPT could upload and use. And I forget how many documents I have in there, maybe 10 or 12 inside the GPT. And then I put some instructions in there of like, when I use you, I want you to return my words first. I want you to do your work based, the majority of your work be on the modeling and the content that I gave you. So I gave it some strict instructions there. And now if I draft a quick email or I record something and transcribe it, I can put it in there. And I know it's not only going to use the leverage technology of AI, but it's going to also follow my words, my principles, everything. And
Exactly.
that was actually the GPT that I used to define the business coaching principles that I use. And we're now doing training with all the leadership team members on business coaching. The way that we do it is via me, and then that will cascade into our departments. And so that was a really great example of that. The other one that I'll touch on, and I'll share my screen just to give a little bit more kind of visual of what this looks like. Give me 1 second here. I might have to change permission.
Yeah, and if you guys are audio only, you can check us out on YouTube too, because we love to share our screens sometimes and be able to provide some real world examples of the topics we talk about, which Gabe is about to do. And this is really cool. We've been utilizing this internally for some weeks now, and it's been really, really advantageous. And so I'm excited for him to share that with you guys.
All right, so this other GPT that I'll show, so everybody has a little bit more of a visual, is a tool that I built specifically just to help kind of when we're creating client content, and we're doing everything from marketing strategy and copywriting strategy, all of that. This is the GPT, and I'll just do a quick overview of where you start. But I believe you need to be on the Plus or Pro account. The Plus account should be more than enough for this. And if you click on your icon there, your profile image, and you go to My GPTs, you will be able to click on Create a GPT. And the great thing about this is you can actually just chat with it and give it all the specifications and everything that you want it to do. And that's a great place to start learning how to build a GPT to do custom work for you, because it's going
Yeah.
to behave differently than a regular, chat GPT chat that you just start from the main platform. When I talk about uploading documents, you can, upload them from here like you would normally, upload a file or from Google Drive or other connected apps. I often will go in here and upload my knowledge files here, and then my instructions will say follow this, file as the primary thing, and you can give really clear and explicit instructions, and then you can test and see if it's actually performing the way you want. So in this case, we've hired a lot of consultants over the years. I always get their permission and say, hey, we're going to record this and I want to use this in the future. So we're, using this ethically and as intended. But inside of here, I not only have a bunch of, documents and knowledge around how we run our marketing strategies at BME, copywriting, but also the experts that we've hired over the years. But even in a model like this, the more you put in as far as a prompt, or the more detailed you are, the better result you're going to get. It's just normal communication, just like you're communicating to a team member. If you're clear and explicit around the result you want and what you're trying to achieve, you're going to get a better outcome than generalized statements.
Yeah,
So
for
we'll
sure.
do one example that we often kick around here on the show. Remind me what those card covers are called, Nathan, and what's the
Oh, I just organized them the other day. Dragon Shield.
Okay. So we'll say write me a sales page for card covers from Dragon Shield. Be sure to make the sales page appeal to gamers in their 20s who love playing. Give me a specific card game, since I don't know the space as well as you do.
Magic the Gathering. You guys are learning a little bit about me. That's like one of my number one hobbies.
So just for sake of the show here, this is a pretty
Yeah.
short, not super detailed prompt, and so it's
Right.
going to make its own version of whatever it thinks based on this basic information. I can go deeper in my first prompt. I can also go through and read what it writes, and then refine it and say what I like or don't like. But you can see that because I've trained it to write sales pages in a specific way, I've got a nice
Yeah.
I've got a great lead here. I love this subhead. It says "Shield your story, play without fear," which just
Love
from
it.
talking to you, Nathan, I know that at least that should resonate a little bit.
I think this is so cool. I've used this GPT obviously, guys, but I haven't done it for this, right? So I'm geeking out over here. This is so cool.
And then from this, it gives placeholders like this is where you'd link to the shop if you were an affiliate or
Yeah.
company. And then the other thing that's nice is I could just write in here, create a canvas from this response, and it's going to turn it into a document that I can actually copy, and I'll just show one piece there. But it's actually like organizing it more like a document. And then as I have refinements, I can ask it to refine the document, or make other versions. And whenever it's done writing, and I can even just edit right in here, which is why canvases are nice. I can edit and change stuff here. And then there's a little copy button in the upper right here. I can copy this out, put it in Google Docs, do something else with it, begin to refine it, because this should be the baseline
Right.
of the work that we start. And then we want to go in and refine it and make it all that it should be. But that's a very quick overview of
So cool.
what is possible in a GPT, and that is just focused around copywriting, marketing strategy. I could also then ask it to say, like, create me some social media posts to promote my sales page, write me Google ads, write me Facebook ads. It can really accelerate you drafting things, and then you can go through and refine it. Our other GPTs, I have ones around like our leadership principles and how we operate at BME. So if I'm, having a client conversation and I just want to have some prompts or ideas, like clients feeling discouraged or challenged around this, what would you suggest? And then our guiding principles that I installed in that GPT will come up, and things like that will come up and be a great coaching tool and support piece. Um, so ultimately, the more you put into it, the more specific you are in configuring it. The more real content from how you speak and operate, from the things you believe, and you can supplement that with other things that you have access to and you're allowed to use, and add those in that can give guidance. But I have, like, my book Atomic Words is in a lot of the GPTs that we use, because there's some great principles around communication there.
Yeah.
It's really about what figuring out the end result you want and documenting that, and then you can talk to ChatGPT about that, and then ultimately you can be in a place where you can use it to, again, accelerate the frameworks you create, the drafts of things, and the more you invest in the GPT, the more it will support you and will save you time in the future. So it's a great
Yeah.
leverage tool.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the example. That was impromptu, folks, and so that made me a little giddy. I like that a lot. And that's just the power of AI, is to create you those types of structures for any kind of campaign that you might have. But I wanted to take kind of a half step back and talk about that a little bit, and instill, like, the important thing to remember, folks, is, like, as intuitive as it is and amazing as it should still just be a structure or embellishment of a core idea or something that you can flourish out yourself. So the key really is, we never let AI compromise our understanding of the topic. And I think that's really important to touch on, is because, like you said, an internal policy we have, and something we encourage everybody else to, is we don't copy and paste from AI into anything public facing, any of the actual work that we do, because it's really important to humanize that content. And also, one of the pitfalls that people will fall into, and I foresee us seeing this a lot as a trend as people overuse AI in the future, is you're going to put out the danger is this: if you copy and paste something from AI and put it out as content, you're not inflecting the real knowledge you have on the subject. And so if you start a conversation with somebody from a piece of content that was written from AI, and you don't have the depth of knowledge to cover that with the person, it's going to become very apparent in that conversation, and really decrease your trust with that person, right?
Yeah, that's a great description of it, because I've done tons of study and learning and research with AI this year. But the way that I do that is I may ask it for input, but then I'll ask questions and challenge it and have a real dialogue. And then I'll go read source articles or things that brings back, or I'll do independent research. And I've been doing things around, like, learning second languages. I've been looking into, quantum physics and mechanics. I've been, looking at all these different aspects of things that I want to learn right now. And I'm not just, putting in a prompt and thinking that because I got a response, I have the knowledge. And it's exactly
Right.
that. Like, I've gone through and really dug in and learned. It actually led me to, in the quantum space, it led me to finding a MIT open course. And if they have a name for all their open courses, and I ended up watching and going through the majority of a full, quantum mechanics course. So
Yeah.
I can now have a very expert level conversation with that, because I spent the time and learned it. But you're exactly right. You don't want to just put something out there that you haven't read, understand, put your own touch and your own energy into, because otherwise you're going to be caught, in those conversations, or people won't even have a conversation with you because they'll be able to tell. There's some words,
Yeah.
there's some phrases, there's some things that consciously, and also even more so unconsciously, we all pick up and go, huh, that doesn't seem like that was from Nathan.
Right.
And so that's one of, like you said, our core policies with AI is we are moving into a high level of AI fluency as a team, but nothing can be used internally or externally until you take it, you understand it, you customize it, you know it. Because, like, we don't accept even internal emails, to each other that were AI generated. Now, if I wrote a long email out and I'm like, man, this seems really wordy, which is my go to thing, to be overly wordy, then I
The
may
pitfall.
put that back into AI and say, can you make this more concise or clean it up? But please keep my words, my tone. Don't change what I say.
That. Yeah.
And then I was the source. I got it cleaned up. It's going to be easier to understand if I send it to you, Nathan, or whoever. But even the response I get, I'm going to read over again and make sure it's accurate, because there's AI. One of its core features is it makes assumptions, and that's a good thing as you're
Right.
learning and building frameworks. But it's a bad thing if you just go on all the assumptions. So yeah, that's a key piece. Is we use it, we leverage it. It's a great accelerator. What the awesome thing is, it allows us to stay competitive, which means our clients get better results for the same investment or less in different areas. But we'll never put anything out that just was a response from something we asked, because that's not real work.
Yeah, and I think that that's a part of another thing I wanted to talk about today, is kind of quelling people's fears about AI, because I've had multiple conversations with people who say for example, the example I hear a lot of people say is like machines in factories, right? The robot arms that move way faster and more precise than we can. Those things were great for technological advancement, for being able to produce goods faster. But do you guys think that they run purely by themselves? No, they have algorithms. They have engineers and maintenance people who come and maintain those things, and still people in physical jobs that work surrounding it. Sure, it may have taken a one job or two jobs, but it created more as well. And so I wanted to get kind of your opinion on that because we're talking a lot about how AI is a tool to leverage, right? But a lot of people are scared that it's going to take their jobs. So tell me a little bit about your opinion on why you think that won't happen.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of conversations around that in the last couple of years, and so AI will not steal anybody's job. AI, the only jobs that will be stolen from people are from people that learned AI better than you. And so you're exactly right that the factory automation is a great example because in that case, did it eliminate jobs off the floor? Absolutely. And those jobs get absorbed other places. They weren't necessarily directly in the same factory, but the people that kept their jobs in the factory were the ones that had the engineering degrees, the computer science degrees to write the controls and guide the machine. They're the
Yeah.
quality assurance people that have a really sharp eye to make sure the machine's performing, as planned. Because automation like that is super high leverage. But if it's not monitored and guided by a human, then what happens in a factory is something gets off like a fraction of an inch. And then if it's not caught immediately, then you can blow tens of thousands or millions of dollars in a few days
Yeah.
because it's off by a degree. So it's the same kind of concept with AI where AI won't steal your job. The person that learned AI better than you will. And so this is an opportunity for everybody. I don't care what industry you're in, what space you're in, what you do for your customers, what you do in your job. If you're still in your 9 to 5, you will. It's really important that you get fluent with AI. You learn how to use it. You learn how to make your work even better and even faster without you spending more time. And if anything, you should be able to save yourself time, put a better work product out. And this is a new definition of work. It's not directly stealing work. It will only steal work if you don't embrace it and really figure out how does this apply to my role. Because I think there's very few jobs on the planet that won't be impacted by people that learn AI to do that job better.
Right. And I think that's the important thing. We're not saying that AI isn't prevalent and it's important and it's changing society as a whole, but it's the mindset shift around it, right? It's like people are thinking it's like Skynet from Terminator, right? Like I've literally had conversations like this where people are just so incredibly scared of what it can do, and they're not willing to take the steps to learn it and understand why it's helpful and how to properly leverage it for your business, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to say, guys, AI can be a huge asset, but it's not always easy to figure out. Just like we were talking about, there are some people that just can't wrap their heads around it. And so if you guys do need some help and want to learn a little bit more about what we've done with AI, as Gabe shared earlier, we built GPTs. We've built actual AI services for our clients too. We've talked about Brain Coach before, which is a really, really cool service. We would love to have a chat with you because we know it can be important for a lot of businesses, but also a little bit scary. So if you guys want to have a chat, all the links will be below. I would love to talk to you about what we've done in AI and be able to guide you through that. And then, of course, it wouldn't be an episode, Gabe, without talking about a win. We talked about earlier. It has been a fantastic April. As of recording this, we're just about to close up April, and things have been going really well. And I wanted to talk about a win with one of our clients, Levelle Nutrition, and I just love these people. So here recently, we stepped in to help them when they were really feeling overwhelmed about their new protein powder product launch, which is different than what they typically do. What they typically do was like edible energy gels, right?
Yeah.
And so the new protein powder was in a similar space, but a lot different than their bread and butter. And so I want to talk a little bit about how we help them carve out a clear plan for this product launch and reduce their stress, right, Gabe?
Yeah. Yeah, we have clients who realize, one, there's a new opportunity that they want to capitalize, which is always great. That can expand the business, and equally as often, we have clients that realize, man, I need to pivot. Something's changing in the market, or something is changing internally in the business, and I need to pivot. And when we do that, it's as business owners and entrepreneurs, it's very overwhelming because like what we've done for so long that's worked, or we're really strong in that. Doing something new has a lot of complexity, and so
Yeah.
in this case, it was great to connect with our clients, who own that company, and say, okay, like, what's the end goal you want? That's always where we start with our clients, is like, what does it look like, 3 months, 6 months, a year from today? What's the ideal outcome? And getting really clear on the ideal outcome means that then we can reverse engineer that and say, great, well, selling this new protein powder is going to be a great new market expansion. It's definitely something that we can explore. And so we help our clients. They've often done some market research, and then we supplement and add more market research. Then we break down a plan and says, well, do you need product images? Like, you're probably going to need sales copy. You want to have emails to introduce this. You're going to have sales pages. Like, how are we going to educate your audience, your customer base, and say, here's something new that can help you in your journey of health? And they support women with fitness, and in a space that is really underserved, which is why we love working with them. They're
Yes.
doing what's needed to be done for a long time, in my opinion, is not think that all energy drinks and all sports things like that should only be focused on men. That's half the market. And really customizing it to all the women athletes. And so that's the path we took, is like help them define what success looked like, supplement with any additional market research or strategy around those things, and then break down, like, what are the assets you need, what's the step-by-step process, what makes sense for you guys to handle internally because you're the experts, and what marketing and technology things can we deliver for you. So it was
Yeah.
awesome to guide them through that and help them launch that new product and really start to see some success with that.
And I love that too, because that harkens back to kind of how we operate all the time, and that's the fun nature of marketing, is being able to try this new product, think about some creative ways to market it, and then have this other half of this process driven. Here's what we know. Here's the market research, and when you blend those two things together, that's when a really beautiful campaign happens. And so that's the strategy that we put into this. And they're also doing a limited test size, so we're being intentional, we're being process driven, but we're also being fun and experimental and trying to serve new people. And that's what we do for all of our clients. This is just one example of that. So, guys, this was such a fun episode. We always love talking about AI. I'm sure in a couple months from now, or maybe even less time, we'll talk about AI again. It's just a super prevalent topic. But Gabe, it was super happy. I'm super happy to be with you again today. And guys, if you like this video, throw it a thumbs up. It helps us out a lot, especially over there on YouTube. Share it with your friends. We always love to make new friends over here on the Marketer's Blueprint. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you can get notified of our new videos. We put one out every single Friday, and we would love to have you guys join the family. And then, of course, again, if you guys are looking for a team of dedicated experts that are working around the clock for your business success, check us out. We've worked with over 10,000 businesses over the years, and we would love to build a relationship with you. And then if you would also like to join our free newsletter, there will be a link down below where we share awesome tips around AI and launching new campaigns and all the stuff that we talk about here on the show. And so, Gabe, it was a pleasure to see you and all the folks watching at home, and we will see you next week.
See you, everyone.